Hi everyone, this is a remote viewing 5-year forecast for our new Seco that we are calling Seco 33. The purpose of our Seco Plus forecasts are to attempt to use remote viewing in the context of our economic forecasting methods to determine the likelihood that a cryptocurrency will survive and thrive into the future. Now, this particular Seco forecast is a bit more in depth than our previous Seco forecasts. So I suggest that you listen to the entire forecast and pay attention all the way to the end. We offer our Seco Plus forecasts free to the public to watch as videos on YouTube, but the real name of the assets in the forecast are changed so that the name referenced in the video is fictional. Potential investors can watch the forecast to see if they want to purchase the actual identity of these assets during the forecast period. We publish our Seco Plus forecasts as a subscription model where those people who purchase a Seco Plus subscription get the identities of all published Seco Plus forecasts, plus all future Seco Plus forecasts that are available and current at least through the end of the year 2023. There is no extra cost for this. Seco Plus forecasts typically are for a minimum of 5 or more years. We occasionally update the forecasts, which usually extends the forecast further into the future. We publish results that are positive as well as negative. Knowing the negative ones is just as important as knowing the positive ones, especially if some people are thinking about dumping currencies from their portfolios that look like they might not thrive or survive. But of course, some Seco Plus forecasts have strong and positive results, and we are always on the lookout for those ones. And luckily for us, one of the currencies we explored this month has positive results. For the Seco Plus studies, we normally probe for change in adoption, and that is whether a significant number of people and institutions start to use the currency. The theory is that if the currency survives and people use the currency, then that might make it a good investment. The concept of adoption is the same for all Seco Plus forecasts. So let me outline what we did with this study for Seco 33. This experimental design has 2 parts for the target, which is what the viewers are supposed to perceive. The first is known now, and that is a base surface that has unique topographical elements. The second part of the target is made up of additional elements that are added to the target after the end of the forecast period, typically using CGI software. We have a video on our website that has a basic description of the Farsight forecasting method as it was used for this study. For this Seco, all of the viewers described the currently verifiable elements of the base surface for the target well. We used multiple base targets. Moreover, all of the viewers had similar or corresponding numbers of elements added to that base surface, and those results tell us how the currency or other asset will perform over the forecast period according to the rules of our experimental design. In our studies, there are a possibility of up to 11 elements that can be placed in the target using CGI software 5 or more years into the future. And our remote viewers are describing what the target will look like at the end of the forecast period after it is fully assembled using CGI software. The rules of how those elements are employed in the target creation process exist now, and those rules are tied to how the currency performs during the forecast period. So, when our viewers describe what the target looks like in the future, we know how the rules will be applied, and thus how the currency will perform. Our results for Seco 33 are relatively positive. Our 3 remote viewers describe the future target as having 3, 4, and 4 additional elements out of the 11 possible elements that are added to the base target. Normally, targets which have 3 or 4 added elements are a good indicator of positive growth. We utilized an aggregated version of the temperature probe analysis for this SICO. Temperature probe analysis is normally used to obtain direction indicators for specific timelines, such as week to week, or month to month, or even year to year. The aggregation method helps us consolidate the timeline measurements so that we have one measure for the entire forecast period, rather than week to week, year to year, or so on. This tends to increase the accuracy of the temperature probe analysis, and it allows us to obtain an independent measure for the aggregate SICO change. We can then compare this with the measure obtained using complexity analysis. For SICO 33, the aggregate temperature probe analysis helps us to interpret the complexity analysis. More specifically, there are 24 measures for temperature that were mapped to changes in adoption for this currency. Of the 24 measures for temperature, 14 are positive and 10 are negative. If you weigh these numbers by their actual perceived temperatures, then the numbers are 20 positive and 15 negative. Thus, the aggregated temperature probe analysis corresponds well enough with the complexity analysis to indicate that SICO 33 does experience a significant rise in their user base of adoption over a period of time over the next 5 years. Moving to a numerical comparison with respect to our other SICO projects, if we average the number of elements perceived by each viewer and divide that by the total possible elements for a target, we get the proportion of total possible elements that a viewer perceives. Then we can average that proportion across all viewers to get an overall index for the currency that ranges from 0 to 1. An index number of 1 would mean that the viewers perceived every possible element that could be used in the forecast. And that means that a currency would be very popular indeed and be adopted by an exceptionally large community. An index number of 0 would mean the exact opposite, which is that the viewers perceived no additional elements over and above the base surface, which would mean that the currency would be expected to perform badly in terms of change in adoption. Now, we are going to change the way that we normally present this by adding rankings to our index numbers. That way, you will know which SICOs have the highest rankings in our projects with positive results. We have also updated our listing as well. So here it is. For SICO 1 currency, that number is 0.66 with a ranking of 2. For SICO 2, the currency of that index number is 0.725, which is our highest ranking SICO. For our SICO 3 currency, the index number is 0.575, which is ranked 3. For our SICO 4 currency, the index number is 0.567, ranking number 4. For our SICO 6, that is 0.389, ranked 13. For SICO 9, 0.472, ranked 5. SICO 11, 0.413, ranked 11. For SICO 14, that number is 0.35, with a ranking of 16.5, and the 0.5 means that it has the same ranking as another SICO. For SICO 17, 0.392, with a ranking of 12. SICO 19, 0.45, ranked 6. SICO 20, 0.35, ranked 16.5. For SICO 22, 0.433, ranked 8.5, which ties with another SICO. For SICO 25, that number is 0.433, ranked 8.5. For SICO 28, it is 0.370, ranked 15. SICO 29, 0.444, ranked 7. For SICO 31, that number is 0.423, ranked 10. For SICO 33, 0.385, ranked 14. Let me explain a bit more about the rankings of these SICO numbers. These rankings of these numbers are considered rough guidelines that are expected to be more or less correct on average, and I emphasize the words on average. The SICOs that I have just listed all have positive results, but one should not say that a SICO with a lower ranking will absolutely do worse with respect to change in adoption than a SICO with a higher ranking. But on average, we are expecting there to be a general correlation between the ranking numbers and the change in adoption for the currency. For example, we expect that SICO 2, which is our highest ranking SICO, to be well adopted by a significant and perhaps large user base by the end of the forecast period. Similarly, we expect our SICOs 14 and 20, which have lower rankings, to experience lower levels of change in adoption at the end of the forecast period. So, on average, we expect our higher ranking SICOs to have larger levels of change in adoption than our lower ranking SICOs on average. But again, that is with respect to change in adoption, not price. Some lower ranking SICOs may end up being very expensive. We are primarily interested in whether a currency will be utilized by a significant user base in the future, and sometimes a relatively inexpensive currency may be used by a lot of people and institutions. So, the rankings should be considered approximate relative guides to currencies that will gain a significant following. We expect there to be notable variation with these results as well, where, say, one lower ranking SICO may end up having a larger change in adoption than a higher ranking SICO. But on average, the theory is that this ranking for adoption will give some guidance with respect to change in adoption levels. So, back to SICO 33. When combined with the positive indicators for aggregate temperature probe analysis, this indicates a positive outlook for SICO 33 for the 5-year period between November 10th, 2022 and November 9th, 2027. So our remote viewing results are positive for SICO 33 in terms of change in adoption. This does not guarantee that the SICO will perform well over the next 5 years, but given that we now have multiple remote viewing sessions done by very experienced remote viewers that all indicate that the SICO's future performance is strong, this suggests that the future timelines for SICO 33 are generally positive. In terms of timing, we expect the strongest growth in adoption for this SICO to occur in 2023 and in 2027. Now, remember our disclaimer. No one at Farsight is a licensed financial advisor, so anything that anyone at Farsight does that relates to using remote viewing to predict financial or economic outcomes of any type, including the performance, however defined, or selling prices of cryptocurrencies, stocks, commodities, or anything else, is done for entertainment and educational purposes only. Everyone doing investments are doing so at their own risk. These are experiments in remote viewing, and there are no guarantees or warranties being made either expressed or implied. Nonetheless, these efforts are truly interesting on a grand scale, and we at Farsight believe that after we do this for a while, it will be hard for anyone to ignore the reality of remote viewing. As we have said in the past, may you follow your own intuitions, make wise investment decisions, and become rich. Thank you for supporting our efforts here at Farsight. Together, we will change the world for the better. I'm Aziz Brown from Farsight.